I'm now starting a new regime, a new daily routine. I'm getting up earlier, so if I seem a little tired right now, it's I got up a few hours earlier than usual to start this new routine, but didn't quite get enough sleep. So first thing is I harvest the links from YouTube. So late afternoon of the previous day I upload usually about 8 or so video clips to YouTube, and then I'll take the links that YouTube supplies me for those videos and I put them on the website, and then I clean the board, and then I write the board. That'll take hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, and then I film now. And while I'm writing the board and filming, the previous day's filming gets processed with Microsoft Movie Maker, and then when the previous day's filming has been processed, ready to be, it needs to be. I'm not quite sure what goes on, but I assume somehow the contrast is sharpened. That's like a first stage of pre-processing, and then a second stage is I need to cut it up into small pieces and put titles, and that's like a second stage of pre-processing, and then it's ready to be uploaded. Well, that pre-processing can take many hours as well, so I do that in parallel with when I'm writing the board and lecturing, filming right now. Like literally right now, it's pre-processing my laptop just in that direction. And then hopefully I'll have enough time to go to the park, get some long view vision, because I'm reading that just too much screen watching and book reading is a strain on the eyes, especially older eyes. And I have to be careful about that because my eyesight is precious. But I am getting older, I'm mid-60s now, so I have to pay attention to that. And then in the evenings, I just don't watch the screen, the computer screen, and I just read. And I have either glasses, reading glasses, or a magnifying glass, which I've shown you before. So this. Quite big, I mean, see my. Okay. So this thing's quite useful. Right now, I hope if you're following these courses seriously, now I know 80 of you are getting regular announcements from YouTube. When I put up new stuff, I don't know how, I can't do it to myself. I can't subscribe to myself, which is sort of annoying, because then I don't know what you guys are getting, those who have subscribed. But I know there's about 80 of you now who do subscribe, so that's quite a largest class. But I'm still puzzled why it isn't like thousands. Some of you remarked that you're also puzzled why this resource is not taken up with greater popularity. Maybe there are disadvantages with the way it's done. Maybe the presentation is so dense, or maybe lots of factors. People just haven't heard about it, and they're only catching on to it slowly. I don't know, whatever. There may be a lot of reasons. Anyway, for those of you who are studying this seriously, I hope that between this filming, or this session and the previous one, that you actually made the effort to analyze in detail the transition diagram of the PDA that was to detect the language. Well, I've written it up again here, 0 to the N, 1 to the N. And here was the transition diagram. And it's, what's the word? It's fairly complex. It's not obvious what's going on, and it requires some interpretation. So I ask you to to make the effort and to study it and become familiar with it, with its many details. So I did the same myself, and so I hope now that I can clarify things more clearly than at the previous session. Now you may remember that the question I raised was given the definition of how you're using the stack. I came away at least with the impression that effectively you're just pushing and popping the stack in such a way that really only the top symbol gets changed. So my question was, well, how do the other elements in the stack, how do they get pushed down and how do they pop up? How does that work? Well, now I think I'm much clearer. And basically the answer is it's with the use of the epsilon. So I'll try to explain what's going on. Now, I should write it down. So these labels here, they're in the general form A, comma, C, B, arrow, C. So I'll use this. What is this? How do you interpret this? What does this mean? The A is if the current symbol on the input string is A, okay, then you will what? Well, that's just one of the checks that'll be used in your transition arrow. Like before we had PDAs, we just had A. So a transition arrow that would you'd go from one state to the next if the current symbol on the input string was A. Okay, so that's the same. That hasn't changed. Okay. Now B. Now you're looking at you have two symbols you can look at now. One is the current symbol in the input string, which is A, and the other one, B, that's the symbol at the top of the stack. Okay. So alright, and the C, what's that? That is the value that you will push on the stack. Right? Now my query was, well, this B here after the comma on the left hand side, that's what you read, but reading and popping, they go together. So if you read a B, you pop it, and then you push a C. So you've popped and pushed at the same time. So effectively, all the things below the top position in the stack just stay in the same position. Effectively, that is what was puzzling me yesterday. So now I think I have the answer, and the answer is using these epsilons. Now. You may remember from the previous session or two back that you can have epsilons in either or more of these three positions. Now, if you have an epsilon in the first position here, where the A is, if you have an epsilon there, like as here, what that means is that you can carry out the transition, the move. Remember, a move is switching of state, like from here to here, and doing something with a stack. Right, so it's like two things that you do. Right, so if this is an epsilon, as in here and here, what that means is that you don't look at the content of what is the present or the current symbol in the input string. In other words, just ignore the input string. You don't do anything with the input string. Okay? Interpret. So for this, if you have an eta in this position, as in here and here, interpret that to mean you ignore the input string. You do nothing with the input string. Okay, but you do the transition. So you do whatever this is and whatever that is. Right? Okay. Now, similarly with the B and C, if the second one here in this position, if that's epsilon, what does that mean? Well, that means you do nothing with the stack. You just ignore the stack. Right? You don't read it and pop it. You just ignore it. It just stays as it is. Doesn't change. Right? You ignore it. Okay, so where's an example? Here. So you got these two. All right. Now the third one that can also have an epsilon, and how do you interpret that? What does that mean? That means that you do not write anything on the stack. Okay. So your writing, your pushing, in other words, you don't push the stack. You just leave it as it is. Right. Now that's when epsilon. Now what happens when you don't have epsilon? So how do you interpret that? See, like I've been saying in earlier sessions, the devil is in the details. And Sipser glosses over the details a bit critical of that, because often the very heart of how something functions